There you go.
Right.
It-
Right on.
He always ends. He always hits the ending. He always nails the landing every time.
Yeah.
Suck it.
I like it when he fades out. Like an old
The live fade.
That's a live fade. Everybody, welcome to Drummers Education Connection. I am here with 4 amazing drummers today. 4 amazing drummers. And we've got a great show for you today. Up in the Bay Area, Jeremy Steinkohler.
What's up, everybody?
Down in San Diego, the man that just played us in, Rick Stojak.
Hey, everyone.
In Tucson, Arizona, the man himself, Chip Ritter. And today we are graced with Sammi Jo Bishop. Sammi, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me. What's up, y'all?
This is y'all. She's from Texas. I just told her we're going to be playing in Fredericksburg, so she's going to come see the band play live in a few weeks. So I'm stoked.
Heck
about
yeah,
that.
I can't wait.
This is going to be cool. Anyway, so we're going to be talking to Sammi Jo today about her career. But before we do that, we're going to do our normal thing, and we are going to kick it off with good things. And that is just something that we all have going on in our life. It's either in drumming, outside of drumming, whatever. That's good. That's going on. So I'm going to throw it to Tucson. I'm going to go for the long bomb all the way out to Tucson. Chip, catch the ball.
Man, I got to tell you, aside from the fact that Sammi Jo's on the show today, which is a good thing, I got to tell, I'm going to punk out, dude. I'm going to take the easy way out and say I'm stoked about Deck Day this Saturday. I can't get over the fact that we're doing it for the 3rd year in a row. I can't get over the fact that people are signed up and they're ready to come to the show. And it's just going to be a full day of drumming madness and teaching and clinics and heads and drum heads and at the Aquarian Drum Headquarters. So I'm just stoked about Deck Day.
Awesome.
Jeremy, what do you got going on, buddy?
You know, my thing today is a gear thing. I came across this company this week that I'd never heard of before called Dragonfly Percussion. You guys ever heard of them?
No.
Dragonfly.
Yes, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they make custom beat bass drum beaters. And they sent me a couple of samples to demo on Deck Day. This one's made out of suede. This one's out of flannel, and I put them on my kit yesterday. I was like, oh my God, these are fantastic. Really, really cool products. Really, really well made. They also have these little toppers that you can put on your drumstick that turn your stick into a mallet. So they make them out of different materials, and you can sort of like turn any drumstick into a mallet with these things that pop on and off. Really cool products. So I'm digging on this stuff and excited to come upon this company and super psyched that they sent me a couple of samples to show everybody.
That's cool, man. Yeah. That's cool. Rick, what do you got going on, bud?
You know, my good thing today is also a gear thing. I'm going to switch camera angles here for you guys, switch cameras. And I now play goombop congas. I've got a set of the Alex Acuna special edition Ash congas from Goombop, and the bongos they're behind that ride. So
congrats.
I've never played a more beautiful instrument, and these congas sing, man. It's got that lacquered piano look, so it's a dream come true.
Rick, you have just now completed the whole like fun house of drumming at your studio there, man.
Yeah, it's on, man.
It's like a carnival. It's like a drumming carnival every time you walk into that room.
It is, man.
It's a cool room, man.
I had the pleasure of having Bart come visit me.
Yeah,
we should do Deck Day in your room. Just cram 30 people into that little space.
We should
hang out and play some drums.
I'm in. That's
awesome.
Sammi Jo, what do you got going on that's good? We'll hear from you and then we'll start, and I'll say something. We'll start the interview. What do you got going on?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of traveling to do this summer. Lots of cool festivals coming up to play. But I'm really in the immediate. I'm really excited about meeting some new students that I recently got on my schedule, and some of them I've known for a while, but some of them I'm just meeting. So I'm really excited to get that started, and that's pretty much it right now.
Right on.
Fantastic.
How many students do you teach each week, Sammi?
Has to be close to 15, 20 maybe. Yeah. If not more. It's kind of it's steady growing, you know, as the summertime approaches with the younger people and getting out of school and all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very cool.
How
Well,
about you, Bart?
my good thing is a couple things. I'm really looking forward to Deck Day. That's going to be awesome. I'm with Chip. I've got my new book is doing good on Hudson Music. Drum Up Your Business. That's doing great. And I, like Rick, I've got a new drum set. I can't show it to you because it's not here in the studio with me. And it is lacquer black too. It's piano lacquer black. Gretsch gave me this beautiful drum set, and their traditional size is 14 by 24. Thing kicks like a mule. 13 up top and 16 down bottom, and I can't wait to get it out on tour. We leave at the end of next month for another month back to Texas and into the Midwest. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So
Congrats
stoked about that. Yeah, thank you. All right, so today we have Sammi Jo Bishop from the band Saliva. What a fantastic hang this is going to be. Sammi, now, so you're a touring drummer. You're in Saliva. I was looking over your bio here really quick. I read it the other day, but I was looking through it. Man, you've played with Jim Dandy. You've done all this amazing stuff. Jim Dandy was the lead singer for Black Oak, Arkansas, the founding member of that. Tell us a little bit more about your career. Tell us what all you do. You teach, you drum, you do all this great stuff. Tell us about you.
I mean, that's actually pretty much the story. I mean, I started pretty young and just kind of got thrown to the wolves from an early age and playing in my teachers' bands, you know, and they needed a sub or when they just wanted to throw me in the mix just to kind of teach me something, you know, teach me about the live environment. And yeah, I've been blessed to tour with a lot of really cool bands. Tito and Tarantula from the Quentin Tarantino movies.
Wow.
I've done a lot of really cool local stuff with tribute bands out here in Texas, which is kind of a big thing here. And then, you know, played with some country bands and learned some new techniques and some new dynamics. And yeah, I mean, cool stuff with Jim Dandy. I mean, that was such a great ride, and that's such a big history and big legacy that he has. And of course, Tommy Aldridge being one of the biggest, you know, aspects of that. And then yeah, now with Saliva touring quite a bit, traveling, and those guys are great, and I've had a really great time with them, and it's been a really big blessing, you know. So, and teaching is a big part of my life and has been for a long time. I really enjoy that very, very much, and you know, just I'm blessed to just play drums every day for a living, you know.
Yep. Right on.
That's awesome.
So I was just watching your video you did with Saliva, and man, it was rocking. It was really raucous. So that was very, very cool to hear. So where does that band play? Like, how far do you go out? Is it regional, or have you ever gone overseas with that, or where are you playing?
I mean, right now it's all over the US. I mean, and the crazy part is we all live in different states.
Mm-hmm.
So we all kind of have to meet up at one point and then travel from there, either on the bus or if they're just one-offs on a plane or something like that. And yeah, we mostly do US. I think at one point we did Japan and did that kind of thing for the military. And yeah, I hope that there's more plans to go UK and Europe in the future with those guys. I think we might have some South America stuff coming up, but that's all hearsay right now. No promises. So, but yeah, you know, it's mostly US for now, and that's a really cool part to kind of see places in your own country that you haven't been to yet. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Yeah.
Hey, Sammi, I got a couple generic questions for you.
Sure.
I don't mean to cut you off, Rick. Sorry.
Go ahead, Chip. You can go ahead.
Well, I'm curious. I want to know, how did Sammi Jo Bishop start playing the drums? What was the moment? Do you remember when you decided you want to be a drummer, or did you just kind of creep into it? How did that happen? What's the story?
Well, I do remember probably around middle school or so. All my friends were into sports or, you know, cheerleading or, different things. And I had tried all that. And some of it I was pretty okay at, but it wasn't anything that made me super excited or whatever to be a part of. So I do remember, actually, my parents were really cool, still are. And they would let me come home from school and chill out and watch. I love to watch music videos every day. And I was just lucky that, channels like VH1 and VH1 Classic would show videos from like Motley Crue and Def Leppard and all these great bands. And I just remember seeing Tommy Lee for the first time spinning upside down in the cage. And I was like, is that really a job? You can do that? And of course you see both my parents go, oh man,
what have we done?
But I was lucky in that sense that my parents were super supportive, but they did make me earn it. They were like, all right, start with 2 drumsticks and play on a pad or a pillow for a little bit and just see if you stick with it. And they signed me up for lessons, which I had to do chores and earn the money for. It wasn't just a given thing.
Love it.
It was a privilege, and so just took off from there. The more I got into it and was blessed to have great teachers, the more I fell in love with it, and I never stopped.
Nice.
That's so great.
So
That's fantastic.
Going back to Saliva, it's definitely like in the metal genre, and I'm always so curious because there's like 1,000 types of styles of metal. What style would you fit Saliva in?
I would say it's more like, believe it or not, some of the early Saliva is borderline like Southern rock, and then
cool.
some of it's more like, they call it new metal, which is in the category of, Chevelle or Breaking Benjamin or, bands like that. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's too crazy as far as, the drumming aspect of metal, but it's up there. Some of those songs aren't easy.
Oh yeah, this track I heard, you were totally serving the music and doing it just right. And new metal is hot. I have a lot of students who come in who are way into that, and so it's always curious. I think it's important to kind of learn what the name of the style is, so that you might approach that from, the right point of, a point of view that is musical. So maybe so it's not full of double kick, but do you work a little double kick into it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be the same or filled out quite as well if there weren't a little bit of double kick in there peppered in,
Yeah, but it's not going the whole time, or
No.
Yeah.
A lot of the right foot parts are super groovy and like you were saying, serve the song. I really enjoy the way that they were written.
Yeah. Are you using 2 bass drums, or do you have the double pedal?
I have the double pedal just to
Yeah.
kind of save my back a little bit.
Oh.
I want to circle back to something you said a minute ago. I've had the great fortune with the band that I play with to play for the military. We've gone over to Eastern Europe many years ago, but we went over to Eastern Europe, to Bosnia and Croatia, Kosovo, when those skirmishes were going on, and played for the military. We also went to Korea and played bass over in Korea, and it's really very eye-opening and it's very cool to do that. I would do it again in a heartbeat. You said that you played in Japan for the troops over there. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was a really great experience. Like you said, it's very eye-opening. Just how willing those guys and ladies are to shift out of their norm, and to adapt to a completely new environment, all for the love of their country, So it's an honor to be able to be a part of their happiness and their moment to let loose and relax for a little bit, and hopefully they see how much we appreciate them and how much that, they mean to us and that they're loved, So that was a very nice, great experience, a blessing for sure. And I hope that it made them happy and just, they're so humble and
Yeah.
they're strong. I mean, those are the toughest guys in the world. You know what I mean? So that kind of teaches you something, you know.
It
Nice.
definitely taught me how to, dig down and find how to face certain things. I remember we flew we played in Macedonia and flew into Kosovo on a Chinook helicopter, and there was two captains that were flying it, and they looked like they were both 12 years old. I'm like,
Ooh.
how did you guys? It was amazing. So anyway, it's very eye opening. So I was just curious about that. That's really cool. Now, that was with Saliva? Yes.
That was, yeah. I did get to go one other time, just kind of last minute with a band out of Austin that just last minute needed somebody. They had these plans, and I think something happened to their original drummer where he needed surgery or something, like in a hurry. So I had to jump in there. So that was my first time. And it was for the military at that point too, but the most recent was with Saliva. Yes, sir.
Cool.
Trial by fire.
Oh yeah.
So,
So-
Sammy, I'm sorry.
Literally.
You go ahead, Rick.
Sammy, I'm wondering, you play also in a Motley Crue tribute band, is that true?
Yeah,
Sometimes?
I mean, that was going there pretty heavy for a little bit. Now it's kind of dwindled down as I've been sort of unavailable and traveling a little bit more, and those guys have kind of moved on to doing other projects. But occasionally we still book some stuff when we're all.
I remember you at the NAMM show with Chris Hagen, who's watching. What's up, Chris? Shout out to Chris Hagen.
Hey, Chris.
We were in the hotel room listening to Motley Crue, and you knew all of the parts. And I wanted to ask you, what was the most challenging Motley Crue song for you to play? What was the one that gave you the most trouble, if any?
Honestly, I grew up listening to that so much, and I'd practice it. Obviously, none of them are easy because I do believe Tommy's very underrated as far as playing and technique and just mechanics in general. But I think at one point we attempted "Power to the Music" on their record with Karabi, and it took a long time for me to get those parts just right in order to do them live. And of course, you're so stressed about it that when you get up there and play live, it's never going to be perfect. So if I had to pick one, that would probably be it. Yeah.
Right on. Cool.
That's a great album. That's
God, yes.
That's
my
a great
favorite
record. What about now with jumping over to Jim Dandy and, as you mentioned, Tommy Aldridge? I mean, come on, what was that like, and were there challenges there with that?
Yeah, I mean, so that was another instance where all the members lived in different states. Aside from Jim Dandy and the backing singer Sammy, they both lived in Arkansas at that time and still do, I believe. But the rest of us, two of us lived in Dallas, and the other guy lived in Florida. So he would actually have to come and fly here, and basically the rhythm section and the guitarist would get together and rehearse. And then at some point we would have to meet with Jim and Sammy and rehearse right before the show. But that was probably the most challenging part, is just kind of getting everybody together and getting on the same schedule. But some of those songs, I mean, my favorite probably being Hot Rod was great. Lord Have Mercy on My Soul, that song's great. I mean, trying to, of course, I'll never compare myself or get anywhere close, but I tried to like form it around learning Tommy's parts, Yeah. And so, of course, legend and a badass, so not easy, but I mean, that was probably the biggest challenge for me for that. But man, it was just so cool to be able to play all those old classic songs and to look back on old footage and to be a part of that, for a little bit.
Sammy, did you, when you got out of high school, like transition right into playing professionally or did you go to college, or at what point did you know this was going to be like a sustainable career for you?
I think, yeah, right out of high school, and even during high school, I started playing out. And I had teachers who I think just kind of wanted to throw me in and to see how I handled it. So they would throw me in with their bands. And at one point, you know, my teacher needed an operation on his shoulder and was just like, hey, you know my songs, you know what to do. I've been teaching you now for this long. Get out there and fill in for me for a week, and then we'll talk, you know. So I think I did go to college for a little bit, and I was kind of in a position where I didn't know what career I was going for. So I was just getting basics out of the way. And that's when I got a call from Tito and Tarantula, and it was going to be a 10-month long process. Wow. Like we were in Europe and South America for the majority of the year. And so I think then is when I realized, you know, if I really wanted to make this my life, that was going to be the time for me to jump. So I ended up leaving school, going on that tour, and it, you know, it changed my whole outlook. And I just, from there, I never stopped, you know.
Fantastic.
Right on. Hey, Sammy, you know, sometimes you play in a smaller venue in a club, and sometimes you're playing these giant festivals outside. Do you approach the festival gigs in a different way because it's such a different environment, or do you kind of just like do the same thing when you play?
I would say I try to approach it all the same. However, at the festivals, it really just depends. But at the festivals, it's a little bit more scary because you're loud. I mean, and if you make a mistake, everybody's going to hear it. So, you know, it's like that kind of thing. It's more just approaching it with trying to get myself to relax and just treat it like a gig, you know, and get up there and be cool and relax and don't really think about what's in front of you, and just focus on serving the purpose, you know, for however long your time slot is. But at the same time, I mean, some club gigs can be scarier because they're more of an intimate environment, you know, so everybody's up close, and you know, there's more chance to connect. And so that could be a little scarier because you're a little more exposed, in my opinion, you know?
Right on.
Do you have any pre-show routines that you go through, like warm-ups or breathing or anything like that? We've talked to a bunch of guys who've talked about their routines.
Well, mine's a little weird. I mean, of course, I do some stretches and try to get, you know, blood flowing to my hands, my arms, my legs and stuff like that. So stretches and just kind of moving around a little bit. I like to warm up on the drum pad if I can. Sometimes I'll go over the whole set and airplay for a little bit. But then right before stage, I'll say a prayer and stuff like that, and just sort of bless myself there and hope for the best. But I wear these 3 necklaces, and one of them's a drum, another one's like a clock looking thing, and then another one's like a UFO, and I've got like a folded up dollar. I put it in my left pocket, and a crystal that someone gave me as a gift for good luck, and put it in my right pocket. So, you know, just
right
little,
on.
like,
you got your mojo working.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever works, whatever it takes.
Right on.
Yeah.
So, Sammy, you know, the world is different than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I've got about half of my student roster is female now. And I'm just curious, do you think there's still some type of stigma out there about female drummers? Have you experienced that, or?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, and it doesn't matter what profession you're in, but for sure with drummers. But and a lot of my roster's been, you know, picking up on the female side too. But, you know, I just think it's all a matter of, you know, knowing who you are and why you're there, and not letting that sort of stuff get in your head. I mean, people are going to say what they're going to say regardless. But, you know, just focusing on your love for it and your intention, I think, is the most important aspect. So, yeah, there definitely is. But that's something that I try to instill, especially in my female students that really want to do this and that are inspired by the craft and want to be a part of it, is just to be a player and be a drummer and don't worry about any sort of, outside noise. You know what I mean? Just focus
Right
on
on.
your
That's a
heart
great
and what you
answer.
That's that's amazing. One of the things that we've talked about, I talked to a lot of my students about a lot on being like a road dog, if you will. When you go see a show and you see a concert, you're witnessing the end result of a lot of hard work. And I'm not talking about the playing aspect. I think the playing aspect is something that it's taken for granted at some point. Yeah, this person can play, so they have the gig. What's the hardest part for you? And some advice that you could give to people that want to be out there on the road, that want to tour, that want to do it, because as we know, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not an easy life. What advice would you give, and what's the hardest thing for you being on the road?
I would say I'm kind of glad you asked that, just because that could go across the board with a lot of different things. But I think
Right.
that the hardest challenge for me so far has been, to be honest with you, a lot of it's been mental. Just because you get into a position where you feel like, do I really belong here? Do I really have a place in this business or in this
Right.
band or whatever
Mhm.
situation it might be? And it's almost like you get a little insecure, or you get a little bit of imposter syndrome, or whatever you want to connect it to. But it really is a lot for me is mental. And just it took me a long time, and I'm still working on, to be honest, my confidence, and just your self-belief and your things like that. It's never been about work ethic or about how good you are or whatever. For me, it's been believing and continuing that belief and maintaining that confidence in order to accomplish the goal. And so the advice that I would give would be just that. It's more than just the cliche believe in yourself. It's more like, I believe the term should be bet on yourself, because a lot of times no one else is gonna. And if you can do that for yourself, then that's usually the best policy, because we live in a crazy world and things constantly change, and you got to shift with those times. But a lot of that is keeping your integrity and your mental state as positive as possible. You know what I'm saying? And so that was something, Chip, that I was going to say to you. Is not too long ago you posted a video where you were talking about that, and you were saying, hey, don't be afraid to reach out to your friends if you're going through something. And you said a lot of words that at that time I needed to hear, and I think a lot of people resonated with. So
Wow, cool.
Chip does this for
It's
people.
you're very wise, Sammy.
Oh, thank you. I don't know about that, but
well, you share a lot. I mean, we talked to a lot of drummers on this show, right? And some really famous drummers, some not so famous drummers, some people who've been in the industry for a long, long time. And a lot of them had very similar things to say about, just sort of staying true to yourself, believing in yourself. And, I think those life lessons are hard earned for a lot of us. And they come with from a lot of experiences. And, for you to, I don't know how old you are, but you look like you're very young to me. And it sounds like you've got a lot of wisdom racked up in a really short amount of time. So it's really beautiful.
She's young. She's a puppy.
Yeah.
I wish I was.
I think that the only way you can get some of this wisdom too that we're talking about here is from doing it. You can go to music school and you can learn how to play and you can be the best player in the world, but the mental game that you have to play with yourself, somewhere on the road between Dallas and Houston or between Dallas and Detroit, it's just your head just gets going with what am I doing? Or yeah, I'm doing the right thing. No, I'm not doing the right thing. Why am I not back home? All those things, right? And there's only one way. There's one way to figure this out, if you can do it or not, and that's to get out there and do it. It's the only way. You're not going to learn how to swim in the shallow end. You've got to get in the deep end, and you got to see if you can swim. Do you find that the mental game maybe you already answered this and I'm just asking it a different way, but what do you do for that if your head gets going too much? What is the mental game that you play with yourself to keep your head in the game?
I mean, I will say that right there is a challenge because there is a lot of stuff that goes through your head, and again, you kind of fight with the confidence aspect, or what am I doing here? What's it going to be like? The unpredictability of it all. Yeah. But I just try to. I'm making an effort to just stop myself and just say, hey, you were here for a reason. You started this for a reason. You've come this far, and beyond that, I actually intentionally put myself in a position to where it's going to be a challenge. If somebody calls and they say, hey, we need a drummer in 2 days for this thing and we lost our guy, can you step in? Anybody could take the easy route and just go, nah, I'm not available, because you don't want to put the work in. But me, I just go, okay, I got to learn 50 songs in 2 days and get ready for this gig, and then hopefully they like me, and then I can maintain the gig for when they need me again. If you purposely put yourself in that position and challenge yourself, then I think it's probably the best policy in my opinion. So just kind of putting yourself there, but really stopping yourself when all the noise comes through and just saying, hey, this is my thing, and don't let anything stand in the way, including yourself. You know what I mean?
Right on.
Oh, that's well said.
You're a great example of just a go-getter. Like, I'm going to do this. You're clear that the work is perhaps challenging, but you're not afraid to go in there and get it and work in any genre, work all kinds of gigs, travel all over the world. And one thing I'm certain of this is that you're inspiring other people, especially your students and younger women. And it's not just as drummers too. All you have to do is just look at your life, and you should start writing a good memo. If you're not, like, start writing a journal, because
memoir.
I think you've got a really, really cool story to share, and that might be part of your purpose. That it's a bigger picture than you, and who knows? I'm sure you're inspiring a lot of younger people.
Thank you, and that's a great idea.
And adults for that matter too.
Right on. Hey, Sammi, can I ask you about your gear? What are you playing on? Who are you endorsing? What's the situation with your gear when you're touring?
Well, right now I'm with Trick Drums. I have a really cool kit, matte black kit that I use on tour. When I'm home, I have a really cool. You've seen the purple kit.
Yes.
So that one's my home monster. Playing trick pedals. I've got a deal with for a long time deal now with Scorpion Percussion drumsticks. And right now I'm kind of actually looking for some advice, if you could at some point, guys. The right cymbals. That's one thing that I haven't nailed down yet. So that might be something that's next on the list.
Well, you can reach out to any of us at any time, Sammi. You're part of the family now.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
We'll do that.
I'll mention this because it makes me think of it. On our last deck day, we had a guy who runs a cymbal shop here in Oakland, in Oakland, California. And, he just turned his garage into a showroom basically. And he's got maybe 300 or 400 cymbals in his garage. And he started his business because he found it really almost impossible to find a good selection of cymbals in the box stores that are left here in the Bay Area. And I asked him about, which cymbal company he was endorsing or endorsed by. And he said, oh, I couldn't possibly pick one. Like, he loves cymbals so much, and he loves sound so much that he's got cymbals from all these different, companies. So, I'm a Sabian guy, Rick and Bart are Sabian guys, Chip's a Peisty guy, and we're happy to tell you about all how great the cymbals are that we play. But, you got to find what the sound that you're looking for that works for you. And sometimes that means different brands, and sometimes you can find it all in one place.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. I think that's kind of my thing too, is I love a lot of Sabian series, and then I love Feisty, so, but I think too is just finding the durability aspect too for the tours and stuff, because you can bust through some stuff and you're out in the middle of Ohio or something, and you gotta do some quick replacements. So yeah, I'll definitely hit you guys up for some advice.
Yes. Sure.
What's your practice routine like? And I know that's like the most broad brush question in the world. A lot of people ask it, but do you specifically, do you work out of books? Are you work on songs that you're learning for a band? Do you just sit down and let it rip? What do you work on where I'm really focusing diligently, like I'm practicing with purpose on this one thing? What's your routine like?
Well, I really like to work on the drum pad, just to kind of get my hands warm and to keep the blood flowing there. But I mean, it really kind of just depends on the situation. I mean, sometimes I'll focus on just patterns or rudiments that I'll play all over the kit. But a lot of times lately, it's been learning songs, practicing up for the gigs coming up, or if there's a new gig that kind of hits the surface, then I'll start preparing for that as early as I can. And lately too, I'm trying to focus more on my weaknesses, and to be honest about what those are, and to try to build the strength up for those. And actually teaching and stuff like that has helped me kind of spotlight what some of those are. So, a lot of times I'll use that as an opportunity for part of the lesson with the student, is just, hey, maybe we both need to brush up on our sight reading. Let's work on it.
Right.
Position, heal thyself. Yeah,
exactly. I sometimes sneak that in, like when I'm teaching a student something I know I need to work on. I'm like, let's try it together.
Yeah, exactly. That way too. I mean, I know it sounds funny, but it gives your student who has their own perception of you a chance to see that you're human too, and that you have things that you need to work on as a teacher, and it gives them a little bit of humility there.
I think it's critical that to always be learning and to always be humble about learning. I feel like the better you get and the more you know, the more you realize how little you know.
Mm-hmm.
That so much, the horizon's always moving.
It's always receding. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It's important for students to not feel like you have every answer and they're the be all end all oracle of drumming wisdom, such as it is.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about the process when you're learning a song? Do you chart it out? Do you have an arrangement chart or a transcription? How do you go about doing it?
I like to listen through and start with just the main beat, main kick drum pattern, and just try to fall into the groove as best that I can. And then I'll start picking apart the fills and things like that, and then go from there. Some songs, if they're a little more challenging or longer songs, I'll make a little cheat sheet and I'll either chart it in a the typical way, or I'll make myself an actual note that I can understand. Like some of my charts probably look like a crazy person wrote them, but it makes sense to me, but a lot of times it's just by ear. Yeah. Sometimes if it's a cover song and I don't quite pick up what's going on, I'll like to watch a video of the actual drummer playing it, or someone that's done a really good solid cover. So, but it's mostly by ear and getting that main bloodline and foundation, and then going from there with all the other details.
As long as you have a system that works for you, right? So if your notes make sense to you, then that's valid.
Of course, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the cool thing you teach too.
Mm-hmm.
With your teaching, sorry, Rick.
No, I was just saying what your cheat sheet is for writing out arrangements. That's something that you could share with students too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of them do the same thing. I mean, they'll write something that makes sense to them, even if it's a nickname for a certain drum fill that repeats or something like that. It's kind of cool to see how kids and other students sort of interpret stuff, and
Yeah.
a lot of times you can learn from it too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. With your teaching schedule, sometimes, as we know, carrying a roster of students and touring is a challenge. Um, I do some teaching from the road on dark nights. Do you ever do that? Do you teach from the road? What do you do when you go out on tour? How do you handle your students when you're gone? What do you do?
Well, right now it's either I'll have a substitute step in for me, or a lot of times the students will just kind of use it for their own little practice break. I'll just tell them, hey, I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks. Here's what you could be working on in that amount of time. And then we'll do a check-in, in the middle of the week at some point when I'm out, and I'll video call them or their parents or whoever will kind of send me a progress report, and I'll advise from there. And then sometimes, a lot of times the parents will say, hey, they're going to continue to practice, but we don't want to deal with the sub right now. However, if you can send them updates, like send them notes on stuff to work on, and then send them pictures and videos from the road that they can be excited about. That way they feel like
sweet.
they're sharing the moment with you.
Love it. Yeah.
That's sort of how
awesome.
I handle that. But it can be a challenge, because I think that a lot of the students are really into it. And so I feel that they deserve that consistency, which is why I tried to stay connected as much as possible,
Do you have a studio like at a music store that you teach out of, or at your house, or where do you teach?
So part-time, I'm at a school in Dallas, which is not too far from me. So I'll do that a couple of days a week, but most of the time, I've gotten really lucky to where I could just go to the students' home. And a lot of times they, whether they be adults or kids, they have a set up room where they have a couple of kits and a lot of different, pads and drumsticks and stuff that we can use. And I just go straight to them, and they're all within like a 10-minute radius. So you just go knock it out in a day, and then you're good to go.
Nice.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think would be the most challenging thing about teaching to you? And also, after that, part two of my question is, what do you think is the most rewarding thing about teaching?
Most challenging is when it's never really about anything technical. There's nothing, that I find to be difficult there. I want to say the most challenging part kind of goes back to a previous question about mentality, is when the student hits a wall. And then they kind of go, I can't do this, or, they get discouraged a little bit by something a little more challenging. So, or maybe they're dealing with some stuff in their own lives that's kind of presenting a wall with other stuff that they're doing and engaging in. So it's kind of trying to pull them back to the light, and getting their head back on their shoulders and getting them to believe, which most of the time you can do over time and through your own example. But I would say that connects to the most rewarding part, which is when they do, Another part that's super rewarding, in my opinion, is just seeing them light up and to feel that confidence and that excitement, and to kind of base their lessons around their interests versus being the militant finger wagger teacher that's, you're going to do this. I kind of want my students to learn what they're interested in, and then pepper in the essentials,
I think it's awesome that you're so accomplished. You're a rock star in your own right, yet you have this humility about you, Sammi. My student, Alan, she's 11 years old. She played Click, Click, Boom on a video on Facebook, and
I saw that.
Sammi commented on it, and I told her Alan, and Alan was telling her mom and dad, was like, the drummer from Saliva sounded on the video. That's so cool.
Sure.
That's so cool.
That's so awesome.
That is cool. That is cool. I think, it is important to stay humble and to be yourself. I've seen a lot of that kind of go downhill with people I've met in music, unfortunately, but I more so I've been blessed to meet much more people that have stayed grounded and have stuck with what their passion is, and that's all they focus on. And that, I think that kind of thing is infectious, and so I think the more you're yourself and you celebrate what makes you different and unique, the better, so hopefully that's doing some good for
Well
people
said.
around me.
It is
Well
doing
said.
some good.
Yeah, that is very well said. I think
Aaron Bliss says she's absolutely inspiring other people.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
very sweet.
Danny Mallard says Sammi is awesome and a great instructor too.
Oh, thank you. I love
Yep.
it. There's some nice comments on here. Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
you got a great fan club going. Yeah, that's
Aw.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think I think when you're, like you said, when you're yourself, you kind of shine through, and people will gravitate towards that. And I know what you mean. Like sometimes you'll meet somebody and they say sometimes don't meet your heroes. You meet somebody you like really looked up to as a drummer, and then you meet them in real life. It's like, what happened? I thought you were a real person. Yeah. But it is cool that when you can, meet somebody that was one of your drumming heroes, and they're a good person and they're good to work with, that is it's rewarding in its own right.
I agree. It's very inspiring to see in other people. But if you kind of look at the common ground that they have, is they all last. The people that are grounded and humble and true to themselves and true to the craft, and that's their main focus, and that's their positivity and their drive.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that are still doing it, 10, 20, 30 years, from now.
Well, hell, I mean, we talked about Tommy Aldridge.
Oh, I know.
Come on. I mean, the dude's been at it forever, and he still crushes it every time you see him play.
Yeah.
Oh,
And he's in his 70s, and he just absolutely crushes it. He's a shining example,
Absolutely. I remember one day Chip actually at NAMM walked me to, he's like, "Hey, have you seen the Yamaha room yet?" And I said, "No." And he walked me down, and we were looking at kits, and all of a sudden Tommy walked right by us, and he just sat down. I mean, he just walked in like he was just another guy, and he just sat down behind one of the kits and just started jamming. I still have pictures and videos of that. And it was just so lucky that right at the right time, Chip was like, "Hey, let's go to the Yamaha room." And
I remember that. Yeah.
That was amazing.
Was that after you played with Jim Dandy?
No, this was years before. And
okay.
I know it sounds kind of funny, but I just remember that happening, and I was standing right there and just getting a feeling like there's just something about this moment that's significant, and never did I think, it was going to connect somehow. I mean, I didn't have the guts to walk up to him and say hi or anything, but just seeing him sit down and do his thing. And, you could just tell he had been there all day and looking around, and he was enjoying the environment or whatever. And it just felt like he just wanted to sit down and jam. And that's what he did, so super, super cool.
That's awesome.
I remember the NAMM show can be a special place. I remember walking into my first NAMM show and hearing some beat, this groove going on. It was like this, and I just kept going, "What is that?" And I was drawn to it. And I walked up to the back of a cage, and I looked through the cage, and Clyde Stubblefield and Jabo Starks were both just sitting there jamming on these two drum sets, these two display drum sets.
Wow.
It was just so cool. And I was just like, whoa. It was such a great time.
Years ago, we were at the aquarium booth, and I'm walking up towards the aquarium booth. I'm like, why are there so many people here? What in the heck is going on? I mean, there was just hundreds of people, and they're all trying to look inside the soundproof room. And I look up over the crowd. Stevie Wonder's in there playing drums.
Oh man.
I was like, holy crap, that's Stevie Wonder. Wow, that's so cool. You know,
I thought you were going to say Chip Ritter was playing drums.
Yeah.
Well, come on. Chip Ritter draws his own crowds at the NAMM show too.
you know what?
He does.
You know, I
every
got a good.
time.
I got a good
stood
story.
behind
You know,
Chip. I've stood behind Chip watching him play, and within 5 minutes, there's 100 people standing around watching him.
And that's before the juggling.
I've seen
Oh,
it.
dude, Chip's a badass, man.
Yeah.
No doubt
I
about
was
it.
at the NAMM show at the Holiday. I mean the Hilton, and we were eating dinner. And Bernard Purdy was at the table, and I was with the drummer that used to play with Wings, Danny. And Danny was like, Bernard, this is Chip Ritter. He blah, blah, blah. And Bernard was like, are you kidding me? And he pulled out my DVD out of his bag.
Oh man.
All right.
That's
Bernard
cool.
Purdy.
Wow.
It was cool. It was definitely a cool moment. I don't have a
See,
picture of it, but
So hip.
Sometimes it's great to meet your heroes, you know, and it
Yeah,
turns
right.
out they're like super nice and supportive and just want
yeah,
to help you
Sammy,
as much as they
Sammy,
can.
that reminds me. I was going to ask if you had to pick 3 of your top drumming inspirations, who would your top 3 drummers be?
Woo, that's a tough one.
But if you
Current
had to,
or anywhere in history.
current right now, who are you looking up
Oh,
to?
I want
as far as-
both. I want both now.
Yeah, I
Oh, we want
too.
both. Never mind. Both.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, history-wise, obviously, John Bonham is the man.
Mhm.
But now I would say, golly, I don't know if I could narrow it down to 3, but I can give you a short list if that's
Give us
cool.
a short
Okay,
list.
do
Totally.
that.
So I've always loved, obviously, Tommy Lee, Bloss from Slaughter. He's now he's done a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's when I first got to know Bloss and watched and started following his career. I love Matt Sorum. I love Brad Wilk. I love Kenny Arnoff for a really long time, and he's got a great book, by the way, that I highly recommend. I mean, it's guys like that. It's always been guys for me that have lasted, you know, that have kind of stood the test of time and have done many gigs, and have put themselves in a lot of different playing situations, you know, and always shined. So I would say guys like that. Number 1, I would have to say that's always really been a big inspiration is Shannon Larkin.
Right on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We got a really lovely comment from one of our listeners. Lori Ludeman says, I had the pleasure of flying from Minneapolis to San Antonio to meet Sammi Jo and watch her play. Humble is the perfect word to describe her. I also saw her play at 1st and 7th Street Entry. I'm amazed by her confidence and competency as a drummer and as a person. She let me play her kit and gave me her signature Scorpion sticks after the show in San Antonio. Best night of my life. So awesome.
Wow.
Thank you, Sammi, for being a good friend and such a great role model to young people. Oh, what a great comment.
Wow.
Thank you, Soul Sister. I appreciate that. I've known Lori for a good bit, and she's a drummer and she loves sports and all kinds of cool things, but she's dealt with a lot of her own challenges, you know, with health and things like that. And meeting her was like a really big eye opener and life changer as well. And she's just always been somebody that's been so supportive and a great friend. And I've tried to do the same and reflect that love back to her. And so that really makes me happy to read. And I appreciate that very much.
Really nice.
You've said a couple of things today that, sorry, Jeremy,
No, go ahead.
that I really like. You recognize like, oh, this person, they're a great person, and they had some challenges. And this person, they had some challenges. And just the fact that you recognize other people's challenges, it's hugely empathetic. It's hugely humble. And it's very cool that you recognize that, because a lot of times I think as an instructor, an instructor, you have to recognize the challenges, but just life challenges, those are way different than drumming challenges. And it's very cool that you've said that. I'm very impressed by that. Very impressed by that.
Thank you, thank you. We're all humans, and
Right.
we're not free of our own challenges, but it's something that I like to spotlight just in general um because it's an inspiration. There's a lot of things and a lot of reasons why many people that I've met or people that I've know could just give up, and they choose not to, and that's something that you can't teach and you can't buy, so that's very real as far as humanity, and something that means a lot. So thank you for that.
Very cool. Jeremy, you were going to say something. I'm sorry, I stepped on you.
I don't remember. I'm just loving everything that Sammy's saying. That's just awesome.
Yeah, it really is amazing, the insight that you have as a player, as a teacher, as just everything. It's very refreshing. It really is. It's very refreshing. So thank you for being part of the show.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure.
When you were playing in Europe and doing those tours around the world, what was your favorite venue? Do you have a favorite standout event that you played that you can remember that was one of your favorites, and why?
Man, I don't remember any specific venues, but I do remember, especially in Germany and Czech Republic and places like that. I remember the festivals just being off the wall, just crazy, people just jumping around and just wild, but all in good fun, all in positivity, and they were just, you could just tell they were just so excited to be there and be in the moment. And just, places like that too, that don't really get a whole lot of entertainment year round. You could tell that they really centered in on the moment, and they were in it, because that's not something that they get to experience, but just being in other countries that you only see on TV or read about in history books or something, and getting to see some of that stuff and those monuments and artifacts up close was kind of cool. Just stuff like that. I remember Russia being super unique and a little scary, but in a good way, so just, I like I said, I don't remember any specific venue, but I can spotlight a lot of different countries and places in my mind for sure.
Well, very cool. That's awesome.
Right on, cool.
Well, guys, we are nearing the end of the show, and we want to say thank you to Sammy for coming on. You're welcome back on the show anytime. And if there's anything that we could ever do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And all you guys, check out where are you going to be out on tour, where people can come see you, Sammy?
I would say for now, just go on Saliva's website and look at some of the tour dates coming up. A lot of what's coming up now is one-offs until the next tour is scheduled. So just keep an eye on the website, and of course, I like to post stuff and keep everybody in the loop. So yeah, that would be a good spot.
That's
if somebody wants to take lessons.
Listening.
If somebody wants to take lessons with you online, can they take lessons with you online?
Absolutely. I'm actually working on a way to make that work. I think right now my challenge is audio, but I've got some friends working with me, and I'm working out more of a space to do it more efficiently. So absolutely, I'm definitely open to that.
Very cool. Chip, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say thank you again for being who you are. You're an inspiration to many people. And do you have any parting words of advice for some younger students like Alan, who's 11 and looks up to you?
I would just say, always, this is advice that was given to me at an early age, which is, number one, believe in yourself, bet on yourself, and don't let anything stop you and get in your way. If this is really, really what you want, don't stop, because your day will come if you just stick in there, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how much you want to quit sometimes. Stay in there, and I promise you, your big day will happen, and probably more times than once. But main thing too is, you know, never stop being a student, and learn all you can and get around the people that are doing what you want to do and learn from them. And don't be afraid to make mistakes either, you know. So we're all human, we're all people. But with you guys, I just quickly wanted to say thank you for having me today. And all of you have been a really big part of my story and my life, and have been a big inspiration to me. And the fact that you're doing this show and sharing all this with people and inspiring people yourselves really means a lot. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you know that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. Total pleasure. Good luck with all your great projects and your teaching. And thank you so much again for coming on the show.
You guys too.
Thank you, Sammy.
very much.
Yeah, thank you, Sammy. We'll
All right,
see
guys.
everybody at Deck Day
Saturday
Saturday.
at Aquarian Drumheads in Orange, California. There's still a handful of seats left. You can sign up at drummersedcon.com, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Bye,
Hit it,
everybody.
Rick.